In the last two videos, we got control over a single render. Now we're going to use those same techniques to produce sets of renders, and I'll show you how I was able to get this Runchat house to a pretty high level and also produce consistency across different angles of it. To start with, I've found two references that I like. I want to have this red material, and also I would like this kind of scalloped roof. Now, the typical way to do this would be to grab that scalloped roof, the red material, your screen grab of the Rhino viewport, and just ask Gemini to kind of put these all together. I've tried making a semi-decent prompt that attempts to clearly say, grab this part of the first image, this part of the second, and then add them to the third. But after a few tests, I couldn't really get it to work very well. It kept giving kind of results that were somewhat like this image and just like we're always losing the character of the initial building. So it's important to say that I also tested this with shaded mode, and the results from shaded mode also were like much worse compared to rendering this with pen view screen grabs. The way that I ended up going about this was to compose a single image with the references on them. And one thing I also did was crop the references to make them a little bit more clearer, or just highlight the parts of the image that I was most interested in. So to do that, again, I was going back and forth. I was copying this image, opening it in the image editor and pasting it, and then placing it in the top left. From here, I then used a few different models, and I wasn't really able to get the consistency of the geometry with any other model except for Nano Banana Pro, which is a shame because Nano Banana Pro is very expensive. But when we're producing outputs for clients and to really kind of rationalize and see a high quality version of our designs, I think it warrants the cost. And you can see here the prompt is relatively detailed about how to interpret the two images in the top left, that they should be removed after it's finished, a little bit of information about the site and the flora and fauna vegetation, and that was able to produce this outcome. This is pretty straightforward. We've produced this in previous videos. The thing we want to do now is apply the styling across different angles. Okay, so we now want to copy the materiality of this building onto the same building shown from a different angle. And I've been workshopping different ways to do that, and here's what I think has been the most effective. So one thing we're going to do is we're going to copy this image and paste it onto the canvas. So I want to use this as a reference, and I want to collage it into a screen grab of this building, but I don't really care about preserving all the surroundings. So what I'm going to do is actually double click that image, crop out just the house, and create this kind of zoomed in specific version of just the house geometry. I'm going to make a kind of square aspect ratio and then import that as a screenshot. And we're getting this warning because we don't recommend using images with wild aspect ratios for generations. However, what we're using this for instead is we're going to copy this image, and then we're going to paste it into the image editor and place it in the top left. So we can probably just leave this for now, and we have now an image with the building reference on the top, and then we have a prompt that I workshopped quite a bit with the chat agent just to kind of try and make it quite specific to this building about preserving qualities of the image, and also to make sure that when it renders this building, it also shows it from a different angle. It doesn't preserve all the vegetation surrounding this house. And finally, to make sure that it removes the image in the top left. So it's quite a lengthy prompt, but let's see how it performs. We're going to use the best model because this is just a task that most models struggle with in terms of preserving qualities of one image, applying them to an angle of the same thing. And so we'll use Nano Banana Pro, and we'll run this. Great, so this has given us basically exactly what we want. Let's swap to web view so you can get a closer look at that, but it's showing us the same building qualities from now a different angle. Just copy that over here so you can see the two together side by side. But this is a pretty good outcome. Rotating camera angles is one of the most difficult things to do with any of the image models. Okay, and now I'd like to increase the difficulty of this and try and take an image of the roof of this building and show it from the top down. Obviously, it would be great to have a lot more site information, but we're just going to try and see how it does injecting its own site information. And we could always just use the image editor to make some adjustments to sketch over it and tell it what we want. But let's just see if we can get it to show a sculpture roof, a top view of this building. So to bring in a screen grab of the roof, we'll just use the screenshot button. I just kind of have been adjusting the bottom height of this to change the aspect ratio of this image as it's coming in. It's a pretty dumb but easy way to set aspect ratio on imports. And then next we can copy this. We can copy a prompt and also the output here. We'll just Alt drag select those and we can clear the image input. So because this is a roof image, I do want to be explicit that this is like a top down view, containing a CAD screen grab of building looking at it from above. And then what we can do is copy this image here, go down and double click this, paste it in using Command V, and then we'll just place it in the top left corner again and we'll save it. So just with a slight tweak to this prompt and then plugging it in, let's run this and see what we get. Great. So you can see it's done a good job. It's retained the placement of our chimney. It has these scalloped roof sheets. And it's done a pretty decent job of representing this building. It's weathered it a bit, which I guess we could remove in a further pass if we wanted it to look a bit newer. But this is a building that's going in the Australian outback, so probably it will look like that pretty quickly. I think to summarize here, with the capabilities of current models, I don't think it's entirely advisable that you should just go and like plug a bunch of images into a single node and then like try and style transfer 9 of them at once and expect that the result will be what you're after. As these models stand, we are already using the best model for all of this so far. We're using Gemini Pro. The output is really good. It's matching the references, but I do think it's important to do them one at a time just because it reduces the amount of credits you have to use, but there is a certain amount of experimentation that's required with prompting to get the exact kind of output you're looking for. And so you can build up a library of these prompts, and if you're editing a prompt, you can like tab and use this as a way to manage prompts and bring them in and reuse them over time. But for the moment, as things stand with current models, we just advise to go one by one and make sure you're getting a great output each time.